I'm AJ.
I'm Sunny.
I'm Randy, and this is Bourbon, Wine, and True Crime, a podcast where three fun but weird friends sit down once a week to drink together virtually and discuss true crime. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Are you guys?
We are thriving this week.
Oh,
Hi.
we are doing so well.
I'm proud of us.
I'm
So
always
that's
proud of
good.
us.
You know what? I'm very proud of us. We all look pretty decent. We're here. We're together. We're smashing it.
Fun
Yeah.
fact: I've had this shirt
Smashing.
since high school.
Nice.
Yay.
Because
That's
I'm
cool.
cheap.
No, you're eco-friendly.
I dig it.
You're eco-friendly.
I've had
What
this
are we all
since high
drinking?
school.
Oh yeah. You've had this face since high school?
Yeah,
You acquired it.
I acquired it in high school. Don't ask questions.
Well, I'm
Oh,
drinking
my goodness.
my signature vodka.
Nice.
Switch to a new brand.
Oh. I feel like vodka, you could have like top shelf or house and it's pretty consistent.
In
I
mixed
agree.
drinks, yes.
And
By
mixed drinks,
itself,
yeah. Yeah, by itself it's like turpentine, but in mixed drinks it's kind of like tomato.
Well, I'm weird. I don't like Grey Goose, and I know that's considered top shelf.
Only in El Paso.
I just want strong feelings.
Sonia's having a truly with her tiny hands.
Her weird tiny hands.
my baby
God. And then you pair it with the voice and it's even better.
It's my strong hand.
It's my strong hand. It's my strong hand.
That's very
And I do
disturbing.
want to have a taste like this because I sure would like to.
Tell us what you're drinking in that voice.
I am drinking a Truly.
Oh, no, I want it in that voice.
I'm drinking a Truly and I'm doing my best.
There it is.
We've lost all three of our listeners.
All three are gone now.
They're gone.
AJ, what are you drinking?
I am actually drinking something I've never had before. I've never made before in this kind of situation. I was in a hurry, so I had some Bloody Mary mix that hadn't been opened. I had like this much vodka left, so I threw that together.
Delicious.
And then I did a generous splash of pickle juice.
Oh,
We're gonna see.
Love.
I don't know if it's spicy. I don't know
that.
if it's gonna give me indigestion. I don't know. Let's find out. Let's see.
And verdict?
is it delicious?
I like it.
No, I'll just try that next time.
I am. It's like I'm drinking a snack.
Mm.
I'm here for it.
It's like you're drinking me, AJ.
You are a
Feeling like a
snack. You are a snack. I love it.
This tastes like
love
I'm drinking all my problems away.
Drink it up.
This is accurate.
Very, very accurate. Well, what is our topic for today? If there is a topic, I know we're kind of shooting loose.
Well, we were going to do fecal crimes. That was going to be what we were covering.
Was it really?
I'm
You're
just
lying.
kidding because
I thought
we're
that I-
covering April Fool's crimes.
I really thought, like, did I miss that message or conversation? Did I delete that out of my brain? I'm not sure, but
I was like, I didn't write that down.
Your faces were amazing. You're like, oh my God, were we covering fecal crimes?
Did we agree to that? We would
I don't
agree to
remember
that.
that.
although I can't see that as being something we would agree to. So the fact that
Absolutely.
that was coming out of your mouth wasn't completely unheard of.
No.
We've talked about weirder shit.
We have.
So
No. Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
So we are talking about April Fool's jokes, crimes.
Crimes.
I hope.
Crimes.
Thanks.
Thanks.
I think I may have on purpose misunderstood the assignment. But to be fair, though, there wasn't a whole lot.
Can I start by just talking a little bit about April Fool's Day?
Of course.
Absolutely.
Okay. So first, it is get it first. But anyway, so first of all, it is a special day because it is my stepson's birthday on April Fool's.
That is
Yeah.
funny.
Happy birthday, Seamus.
Yes. So big happy birthday, the big 2-0.
Shut up.
Yeah, I
No.
know.
I don't like any of that.
He's in his 20s now.
Oh my God.
But I wanted to talk about, as I was researching a little bit, there are a lot of different theories as to the origins of April Fool's Day. But the most commonly believed one is pretty interesting. So in 1582, France switched over to the Gregorian calendar. And it used to be that New Year's Day was April 1st. And it at this point was switched to January 1st. And so, obviously there was no internet in 1582.
No,
and
Sure
so
wasn't.
to get the information that you needed, it sometimes took a bit. So those who were a little bit slower to get with the program of the new calendar, they started having pranks played on them. People were making fun of them for being slow on the uptake, and including having paper fish glued onto their backs because fish are easy to catch. And so people to this day in some areas still refer to gullible people as fish to this day.
that's interesting.
I'm really glad you answered that question before it came out of my mouth, because I immediately was thinking, now in what was this
1582.
So it's like just the end of the Black Plague. We're in some pretty serious shit in medieval times. To me, I don't think there's a lot of comedy going on there. So,
But
I guess you got to get your chuckles where you can. So paper fish it is.
Paper fish. And so I am now going to start calling people fish when I feel like they are being particularly dense.
Us, AJ, earlier.
and, and I'm going to start giving various reasons of why I'm calling them fish, none of which are correct.
Wrong answers only.
It's because dumb people are scaly. They're going to be like, what? I'll go, what? And then I'll walk away.
Huh?
What? Fish say what?
Fish say what?
But that's a very, very brief origin story of April Fool's Day, and I thought it was fun.
That is
That's pretty
fun.
good. I have a question.
Yes.
If they were switching to their Gregorian calendar, what were they in before?
That's a great question. I am not 100% sure, but I'm going to Google it right now, and then I'll
I don't think it matters, but I'm
Just
just
curious.
that was a pretty solid time span before we moved on over to the Gregorian calendar.
That's Can you imagine somebody just like rides up to your door one day on a horse and it's like, New Year's is now in January? Like, what are you talking about?
the Julian calendar?
Okay, so that's based on
October.
Julius
Wait,
Caesar, right? That's more like way back into the 30 AD era.
okay, I'm gonna go down a rabbit hole now because like in the army we use the Julian calendar and there's no months. It's just like, the 32nd day of the year is January or February 1st and so on and so forth. We call those Julian dates.
Interesting.
Yes, now I wonder where that came from. If
That is quite the rabbit hole. I had no idea that was how they did that. That's cool.
yeah, we have to have this like thing that's up where because it gets like deeper into the year, you just lose track and it's like, oh, today's day 265.
Yeah, so I guess it
Crazy.
changed how they calculated leap years. And they were using both calendars between 1582 and 1752 because that's how long everything takes to get to everybody.
Jeez.
Is 200 years. So
Well, they didn't even
Talk
have
about-
newspapers back then, did they?
shoddy change management. I'm going to tell my team at work, I'm like, boy, you think we're bad at change management? Let me tell you about the French in 1582. Boy, howdy.
We're killing it.
We're killing it.
Hmm.
So anyway, that's really all the background I have, but I know that we
Okay.
have sort of a weird assortment going on today. So AJ, I know you have a longer situation and I have 3 shorter situations.
And I have
Okay.
nothing.
I'm gonna do my case that I found. But I have an anecdote. I can either say it now or I can wrap it up at the end. It's pretty funny.
Probably at the end.
Are we okay? Let's do it at the end. All right, cool.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm gonna bring down the party. I'm sorry, not sorry. As I always do, my focus
Boo.
generally is on pretty dark and deep cases. I don't know. That's just where my brain
That's
is
so
at.
unlike you, AJ.
I know,
You're
right?
usually so fun.
Yeah, you're never a bummer. What are you talking about?
I mean, Skittles in the bathtub. There's nothing I could do.
That's
There's
nothing I could tell.
Okay, so for April Fool's crimes, I found a couple of cases, but I really started to look for things that had more substance. And what I came across was a case I had never heard of, which one made me kind of shocked and two made me very sad because this case is pretty incredible. And I'm really surprised that I had not heard of it. So if you guys have heard of it, I will be very impressed. So I do want to say that this was a case that was covered by Crime Junkie podcast, and the title of that episode is called Wanted Monster in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And they released that episode on April the 1st, 2018, so it's fairly old. And so there's been some movement in the case since even their podcast. They did a phenomenal job on it, everybody. So if you guys want to go back and listen to the real professionals do a cover on this case, they did an incredible job. They do
We're
a
very
deep dive.
professional.
We're incredibly professional. They do a very good deep dive on this, and you can tell that it's something that they spent quite some time on. So go check them out at Crime Junkie Podcast, Monster in Fort Wayne, Indiana. So what we're covering today is the case of April Marie Tinsley, who was born on March 18th, 1980. So she was a little bit older than I. So I can see she would have been my age at this point, about. But she disappeared, and here's where it connects. She disappeared on April the 1st, 1988. So there's our tie-in to.
Here it is.
There it is. April. That's the only tie-in. That's the only tie-in you're gonna get was April 1st, 1988.
We've had worse ones.
Yeah, like
We've had worse ones.
my 1920s female gangster that was born in the 30s.
Mhm.
I had forgotten about that one, but you know what?
There's nothing
Very
I could
true.
do.
There's nothing
Okay,
I could do.
however, I think my Easter one was the most relevant.
That one was pretty good, honestly.
Still not Easter. Would like to
Still
point
not
that out.
Easter.
Still not there. Mhm.
Yeah, it's still not there.
I know this case. I could feel it. I just can't.
I bet you do. All right. Ba-ba-ba. So April Tinsley was an 8-year-old girl from Fort Wayne, Indiana, United States, who was, trigger warning, she was kidnapped, raped, and murdered in 1988.
Just 8.
Mm-hmm. Throughout the years, her killer left several anonymous messages and notes in the Fort Wayne area between 1990 and 2004, openly boasting about April's murder and threatening to kill again. April was a member of the children's choir at the Faith United Methodist Church and a second grader attending Fairfield Elementary School. On April the 1st, 1988, Good Friday, she was playing with 2 of her friends, and they were moving between houses. While they were playing, the weather started to get kind of ugly and there was a storm rolling in, and she had left her umbrella at a friend's house, a different friend's house that was still in close proximity, and she told her friends, I'm going to go get my umbrella. So she left there a little bit before 3 o'clock and then was never seen again. Some time passes and the friends don't think anything of it because she just went to go get her umbrella and maybe she forgot something, maybe something happened. So the little 8-year-old friends, I mean, they're 8, they don't think anything of it. And at this time, nor does her mother, because it's early in the afternoon and she knows that she'd gone to play with her friends. But it didn't take very long for April's mother to know that something was wrong. So she goes and talks to the little girls, and they said no, that she went to get the umbrella. And the mom is looking around. And by this time, April hasn't come home for dinner. So she knows something is terribly wrong. So at this point, her mom reports her daughter missing to the police when she didn't come home for dinner. The initial search for April included, so this is just the initial search, 250 Fort Wayne police officers and 50 volunteers.
Wow.
A witness later reported seeing a white man in his 30s forcing a girl believed to be April into his blue pickup truck. Now, this witness is later revealed to be a young kid.
Wow.
And so that child's memory, how do you know what to report? When you're little, everybody looks old.
Mhm.
Like 30 is ancient.
Yes.
They could have been 25. They could have been 55. And the kid's like, yeah, they're 30.
Yeah.
So that was basically one of the very few tips they had to go on. But they do know that she was abducted because of the circumstances. She's just vanished. And so they quickly realize that this is an abduction situation. And it happens very quickly. And they send out all these personnel, and they don't have any sort of information besides what this young witness is giving them. So that was April the 1st. So a couple days later, a jogger found April's body on April the 4th, which was a Monday, in a ditch just west of Spencerville, Indiana, which is about 20 minutes from where she lived, or where she was abducted from. Along with April's body, investigators found only one of April's shoes. She had been wearing some purple little shoes, and only one of them had been around her body. And there was also a sex toy that was left in a shopping bag.
Ew.
With this little part, I have no other information. I don't know if that particular piece of evidence was ever tested or was ever considered a significant piece of evidence. That's kind of the only snippet that I have right now. Another witness, a motorist, later reported seeing a blue pickup truck near this area where she was found in the ditch. April's autopsy report suggested that she had indeed been raped, even though at the time of her discovery she was fully clothed, but her underwear had been inside out when she was dressed. So this kind of indicates, was she redressed, or you know what I mean? So yeah.
Poor little baby.
It also showed that she had been strangled to death. So the cause of death was asphyxiation. The report determined that she had been dead for about 1 to 2 days before she was discovered, and that she had been placed in the ditch 4 hours before this discovery.
What in the world? So they kept her for 2 days and then killed her and then kept her for 2 days.
And that timeline is a little bit fuzzy. It's just kind of, it's just fuzzy. I don't have another word for it. It was the late 80s. They were doing the best they could. When she was discovered, 2 radio stations locally began to establish a reward fund, and there was even more money donated to contribute to April's burial. So just a couple days later, April's memorial service was held on April the 8th, 1988 at the Faith United Methodist Church, and she was buried in Green Lawn Memorial Park. Immediately, there's a ton of police presence, investigation, and police very quickly come into to start to investigate a 34-year-old suspect who was indeed charged with child molestation in a separate case, but he was acquitted of those charges later the next month. He did provide a DNA sample, but it was it couldn't be ruled out, but it also couldn't be determined that it was definitely his. And keeping in mind that this was the late 80s, DNA evidence is very new to investigative criminal cases. And there's really only like one lab in the country at this time that's doing DNA testing, and that's the FBI lab.
At the time, couldn't they just do the gender and the blood type? or just the blood type?
They could do both. They could do the blood type and the gender, but they could only do the blood type if the individual was a secretor. If they were a non-secretor, then blood type couldn't be determined. But if that person secreted, I think it's the correct protein into their sebum, then they could be at least determined to be what kind of blood type and if they were a secretor.
Mhm.
Okay, but this individual was also ruled out. There were 4 other suspects that were also looked at, and their samples were also collected. But as with the first, none of them could be exclusively ruled out, but they couldn't also be determined to be the perpetrators.
Mhm.
So 90 members of the Fort Wayne community formed the volunteer group April, APRIL, as an acronym. This is, pardon me, the Associated Parents Regional Independent League, or later Abduction Prevention Reconnaissance and Information League, which I like that. I love
I
that.
like that too.
On April 20th, 1988, to help police solve cases involving missing children. So that league was established. Let me see where I want to go. Okay. In 1990, May 21st, 1990, police found a message on the side of a barn reading, quote, "I kill 8-year-old April M. Tinsley." And that's it. It actually reads April Marie Tinsley. And then separately, quote, "Did you find the other shoe? Ha ha, I will kill again."
Was that released to the press? Do you know about the
Yes.
shoe? Oh, okay.
Oh, the shoe part? No. And that part of the picture, like you can't really find that on like images. So good question. And to my knowledge, no, that was not released out to the public, so it wasn't common knowledge. So police felt very confident that the person who wrote this was indeed April's abductor, rapist, and murderer.
Ugh.
The message was written with crayons that were indeed found nearby. Investigators initially believed it could be connected with the murder of 7-year-old Sarah Jean Boker, whose body was found on June 14th, 1990, also in Fort Wayne. Local and state police formed a homicide team in April 1991 to investigate Tinsley and Boker's case. On April 7th, 1991, the FBI's Behavioral Science Unit determined that although Tinsley and Boker's cases were similar, they were ultimately unrelated. During the Memorial Day weekend in 2004, so we've gone from 1988 to 1990 and now 2004. Big jump. And this is where it gets extra gross. Four
Yay.
notes were found in the Fort Wayne area that are believed to have been written by Tinsley's murderer. And we'll get back to why we know indeed. 3 of these notes were left on girls' bicycles, and 1 was left in a mailbox.
Oh, okay. I do know this case.
There it is. 3 notes were placed in plastic bags, along with used condoms
What the fuck?
and Polaroid pictures of a man's lower body. One of the notes, and I believe this is the note that was left in the mailbox, read, quote, "Hi, honey. I've been watching you. I am the same person that kidnapped Anne, A-N, rape, and kill April Tinsley. You are my next victim. If you don't report this to police, and if I don't see this in the paper tomorrow or on the local news, I will blow up your house."
What? Can you imagine being those parents?
Now, what the Crime Junkie podcast did a very good job doing was describing this writing and actually like spelling out how the perpetrator wrote some of these words. So I believe, for example, the word honey was spelled with 2 O's,
Like Hooney?
like Hooney. And her name April was misspelled and was spelled Aproil. Like
April?
Aproil, yeah.
Huh.
And in the original like barn note, like the writing and the grammar was very infantile, and so they do kind of, well, April's name is not spelled
Likely
right,
an
but
educated individual.
right. And it could be the same person, and they weren't really sure because it had been a lot of years also. So these parents report it for all of these young girls, and so baggies, used condoms, Polaroids, like
Disgusting.
very foul.
Did the parents find the stuff or did the kids?
The kids found it.
Oh my
The
god.
The children found it. The children found it.
Oh, those poor things.
So by now we're in 2004. DNA technology has greatly progressed. We're entering into more of a digital era. Internet's becoming available, at least on like government levels, in a more communicative like way. And I don't remember though if they have I think they have CODIS at this time. So all of the original evidence was kept. The DNA profiles at the time were kept. And so now they have DNA from these condoms, and they tested against their original evidence. And indeed, the DNA from the condoms versus the evidence collected from April's body does in fact match.
Is this are we still in Fort Wayne, Indiana?
Yes.
Oh, what a
So this whole
monster.
time, like the police and the community believe, okay, well, clearly this person probably lives here. They work here. They might have a wife. If they don't have a wife, they're probably able to lead fairly normal lives with an immense and uncontrollable proclivity towards sexual attraction towards young girls.
Ugh.
Monsters.
Yep. All of them.
Ugh.
That shit blows my mind so hard because like Eduardo is 31. I should know his age. I think he's 31.
It's fine.
But no, he's 30. He's 30. But I told him I'm 38, and he is at the limit of like how young I will go, because like somebody in their 20s, they're just like they're too young. They're not attractive to me. It's not. So
Oh yeah, agreed. I'm like, ew.
yeah.
Ugh.
So like what part of you is just so fucking shattered that first of all hurting a kid that is just they're so helpless, and second of all like just that is you are need to be removed from society and this planet. You
I
are
just don't understand like I literally don't like as you get older, right? Like the things like I'm like, ooh, silver hair is sexy. Like it moves with me. It moves appropriately with me. Things where I'm like, oh, like, like Zac Efron in High School Musical, that a long time ago was fine. And now I'm like, ugh. Like, no, there's no.
You're a child.
But Zac Efron now in his Netflix documentary or whatever documentary that was in.
Oh,
hi.
Yeah. No, I know.
Yeah.
But I'm like that the touch of gray. I'm like, oh, hi. Like into that. Like,
right.
Like crow's feet that indicate that you laugh a lot. I'm like, what's up, baby? Like,
but we as females, we love that. Like that's very sexy to us.
yeah.
But why is it for a lot of men? Not saying
they
all,
want us to stay 18.
but a lot. They like to quote, what is it, Dazed and Confused? Like, hey, Matthew McConaughey.
Older.
They stay the same age.
Yeah, gross.
No.
Gross.
No, it's not okay.
That is, I don't know what I would talk to an 18-year-old about, except like,
I know,
hey,
right?
you stay in school and you study.
Yeah.
Keep your credit score good.
Yeah.
Make good decisions as your brain finishes developing.
Yes. And of course, like I'm not comparing people that like younger people to pedophiles, but I'm just like, I just cannot fathom that. It's like seeing a child, like a literal child, and
like,
feeling
gross.
And honestly, I don't want to understand that. I don't want to twist my brain up in that way, because that is
interested in understanding.
Nope.
something I don't. I was listening to Morbid, and Elena has some littles, as she calls them. And something that she said to her kids, which I thought was really smart, because, you know, like, obviously now we know pedophiles are like a big problem, and like people that abduct kids and hurt kids. And what she tells her kids is that no adult will ever need help from you. Like, no adult needs to know where the gas station is. No adult needs to know where this is in the store.
No adult is going to need help from a child.
Right.
Yeah. In general.
That's a very good. I hadn't thought of it that way, but that's perfect.
Yeah. The only question I ask, if I see a kid alone, I'm just like, me and Ernesto were driving down the street the other day. This kid was just like walking by herself, looking like very sad. And I was looking, he's like, do you want me to stop and ask her if she's okay? And I was like, no, I'll ask. So I was like,
No.
Yeah, you don't ask.
Let me handle that.
I was like, hey dude, like, you good? Like, you all right? She's like, I just had a bad day at school and I'm walking home. And I was like, so we kind of like drove slowly to make sure she like got to her house, because just the environment that we live in now. But I think that's the only acceptable thing to ask a kid. Like, hey, where's your parent?
Yeah. Are you okay?
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Pardon me. Okay. So the DNA from the condoms matched the police's DNA profile of the suspect, leading investigators to believe that the incidents were indeed connected. In April 2009, so we're now 21 years post murder.
A poor family.
Now, what would we ask that has been happening in those 21 years with the suspect? That's what I thought when I was reading this case. What are they doing? What are the police doing? She was gone in a minute.
Yeah.
In a place where people had eyes on her. There was a note written on a barn, notes written on bicycles, and you're telling me not a single person saw what fuck was happening?
Well, plus he's writing these notes saying that he's watching these other kids.
And nothing.
And I'm gonna just echo Crime Junkie for a minute, because I think that she made an incredible point. Somebody was just not saying what they knew. Somebody knew something. There was additional information, and we don't have time to get into it. But there was a little like threads of information fed to the media, and nobody came forward. There were zero substantial leads at this point. 20 years, this poor mother. Okay.
I'm also surprised that he didn't, and I'm making a assumption based on statistics, that he didn't kill another or try to abduct another kid in all that time.
Or rape or murder, like something that would put
they usually
DNA
do not
CODIS.
stop. It's usually
Something
not one thing.
Exactly. So where is his criminal record where he's going to be forced to put in DNA that can match this previous case?
Wait,
maybe he's one of those lucky ones that doesn't get caught. I doubt it. I don't know. Because
if you're convicted of like sex crimes against children, don't they you have to submit your DNA?
You do now.
Yeah, it wasn't always that way.
It wasn't always that way. No. Okay. In April 2009, the television program America's Most Wanted ran a segment on April's case and asked for tips. The investigation series, Crime Watch Daily, covered the murder in an episode that aired in 2016.
Okay.
April's case was featured on an episode On the Case with Paula Zahn that aired in July 15th, 2018.
Okay.
And at that point, still no solid leads or solid suspects. So jumping back into the time machine to go way back, through this whole time, police indeed did have a profile of the suspect that they did put out. And they believed that they described him as a preferential child sex offender, meaning that he has, quote, a long-term and persistent sexual desire for children. The profile described the murderer as a white male, then in his 40s through 50s, living and working in Northeast Fort Wayne / Allen County with a low to medium income. They did have a composite sketch that was gleaned from 2 adult witnesses at the time that had some information. And the sketch looks like any other white male you would see in 1988. longish hair, kind of deep set eyes, thin lips. It kind of looks like everybody and nobody.
Mhm.
But they released the sketch. And if you remember back when I said that there was 4 other suspects besides their first suspect, it was a lot based on this sketch that was released. But those were not conclusive and they weren't inconclusive at the time.
You know, did they retest those people?
They did. They did. So in June 2015, the Virginia-based company Parabon released a quote snapshot composite sketch of the suspect based on information from his DNA, which is pretty cool that they can do that now. They
Yeah.
can figure out phenotypes, what they physically look like based
Yeah.
on genetic information. So then police released an updated version of his sketch in May of 2016. Okay, let me come back to that.
What's kind of interesting is like, so with 23andMe, my mom and I were just comparing ours. And while most of the phenotypes, like guesses for me, not guesses, but like evaluations or estimations for me are correct, some of them are not. Like I am not supposed to have a cleft chin,
Really?
Hmm.
and I do.
Even though that's a
Um,
dominant trait?
It is a dominant trait, but like per this thing, like that's not what's, and there are a number of other things where, oh, I'm supposed to have straight hair.
You don't.
Super don't. And just
Jokes on them.
haha. And but some things are correct. Like they're, you know, whether my lobes are attached or not, the color of my eyes and hair, like that kind of thing. But it's sometimes off.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. No,
In like
it's not
serious
perfect.
ways. Because you look super different with straight hair.
Yes.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, you have to love Mother Nature because you've got variation and you've got unpredictability a lot of times. So where you just get
It's
something
just
random.
likelihood.
It's
Yeah.
just randomness and likelihood, and that's what it is. It's not ever 100%. Well, I shouldn't say that.
Not
Sometimes.
yet.
Yeah. Okay, so I do want to point out when the Crime Junkie put out their podcast, that was in 2018, and they released it on April 1st as a kind of memorial to April Tinsley. And shortly after they released it, this is going to be crazy. So 30 years after the murder of 8-year-old April Tinsley, police arrested a man in connection to her death on the same day the cold case was to be aired for the Paula Zahn documentary. And April 1st, 2018, the same day that the Crime Junkie podcast was released.
That is wild.
Isn't that crazy? So John D. Miller, age 59. So at the time of the murder would have been 29. Yeah. Of Grabill, Grabill, Grabill.
Sure.
Okay. Cool.
Gravel.
Was arrested at his home Sunday morning by members of the Fort Wayne Police Department and the Indiana State Police, according to court documents. Hours later, Investigation Discoveries on the case of Paula Zahn was set to air an episode about the search for the man who taunted law enforcement for years about the crime. Court documents said that when police arrived at Miller's home Sunday, they asked him if he knew why they were there, and he answered, quote, April Tinsley.
Oh shit.
What?
Before admitting the crime to investigators, according to court documents. According to the FBI, the investigation began April 1st, 1988, when April was indeed abducted from her Fort Wayne neighborhood while walking from a friend's house, and then later found 3 days in a ditch. So at first, he was saying that he couldn't remember. He didn't know, like, I can't say what happened, but it didn't take very long.
Oh my God, these fucking people. I don't remember
Yeah.
when I raped and murdered this 8-year-old
Not
child.
ringing a bell.
No,
It's been 30 years. I don't know.
go fuck yourself.
Go fuck yourself. Really. Eventually, John Miller admitted to abducting April from Hoagland Avenue in Fort Wayne on April 1st, 1988, taking her to his trailer, sexually assaulting her, and killing her. Miller told police that he choked the victim so that she wouldn't tell police what had happened,
You
and that it took
fucking
10
monster.
minutes for the little girl to die.
You fucking monster.
He then told police that he drove April's body to Spencerville the next morning and dumped her in a ditch. So again, the body was found on a Monday. She was abducted on Good Friday, the 1st. Easter Sunday was there. So they estimate that some time of her death was most likely Easter Sunday. So he held her captive for some time, most likely killed her sometime on Easter Sunday. And in the early morning hours of April the 1st, Monday, got just put her body in the ditch. I hate when I using the word like disposed of or like
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
rid of. It's just
That
it's already
poor-
horrifying. It's already
Yeah.
horrifying.
That poor baby.
So Miller was taken to the Allen County Jail where he is being held on suspicion of murder, child molesting, and confinement. He is slated to make his first court appearance Monday. So when this article was published, this was in 2018. And for our listeners, I will come back with an update on his sentencing, I hope, and that his trial has concluded. If you know that information, go ahead and send it to us. I would appreciate it. But as of this recording right now, that's where my information stops. I think that we've got a conclusion. I'll just bring it back to us. And that is the mostly finished case of little April Tinsley.
Jesus.
We can
Sweet
do
little baby girl.
We can do an update with April Tinsley, Lori Vallow, and then the Utah murders, because that case is also progressing.
It is.
That is so, I'm really curious as to how they found him, because like the BTK killer, they found him through the genealogy testing, because like his niece or something had put her DNA into that pool, like that third party pool.
Do you mean the
Golden State.
the
Sorry.
Golden State? Yeah,
Yeah,
BTK
yeah.
was found because he's just a fucking moron.
Fuck that dude. No, the Golden
Anyway,
State killer.
Good God.
Yeah.
I just
How a bummer.
Yeah. So how do you make April's first a bummer? You talk to AJ.
Good God.
But
okay,
this poor little baby, I will post pictures. Her pictures will be in the show notes. And she's just this sweet little baby from the 80s with this little haircut. And she's just such a little cherub and angel and such a sweetheart.
I'm
So-
admittedly somebody that just like generally does not like children. I can tolerate like my nephews, you know, the little bean over with Sunny, and then my two older nephews, like, well, okay, my two older nephews aren't kids anymore. They're like 13 and
Don't tell me that. No.
yeah,
God.
dude. Andrew is 13 and he is a big boy. He's like, I think they said he's like 6 foot now. So, but like, even getting that, like, I would never have kids. If I did have kids, if I got pregnant, I would be unpregnant. Oh, so fast. But I like my natural instinct that I don't even think this is like a woman thing. I think
It's just a person thing.
you would think it's a human thing, is to like protect anything that is defenseless. That's like animals, that's kids. Like I just go somewhere if you have it in you to
Go
hurt a child.
Away.
Because I mean, you know, Sonny, your little drove me batshit insane.
I know. And I'm just like, he's the Antichrist, but he's my Antichrist. And like, I will protect my little Antichrist against all odds, even when I'm like, oh my God. Woo!
Yeah.
So funny story to like to lift the mood. Sonny, were you in Europe when I was watching him?
Mm-mm.
You were somewhere for like 2 days. I don't remember where
I
you
think
went.
I was at a wedding.
I think so. But I had to watch him, and I'm like, I'm gonna be the cool aunt, right? Because Sonny, you're like super healthy. And so I'm like, we're gonna go get pizza, or we're gonna get slushies and all this other stuff.
I'm no fun. I know.
So I figured out I'm not fun, and the army has ruined my ability to be fun because I have zero patience anymore.
I'm never
So-
allowed to give the bean a goodie bag again, okay? She's no fun.
Okay, so he still weighs less now in 2023 than he did the summer we were with you 3 years ago. 3 years ago.
He's grown vertically Okay. So
He's
the mass
lost
has
weight.
spread out.
Since then.
Okay.
Lost weight since 3 years ago, and the variable that was in place at the time
Is AJ.
is
But-
you.
But so we go out to get pizza and we're eating pizza and he's playing with his food and I'm just like, okay, look, either you're eating, you're like so hungry and you're eating, or you're done, but stop playing with your food. And he like takes his plate and he turns all the way around in his chair and I'm just like, what you doing, bud? And he goes, I don't even want to see your face right now. He was 4, 5.
He was,
Probably
he was like 3.
3 or
probably.
4, probably.
He was, and then he's in the Jeep and he's grabbing stuff and I have so much stuff in the back of my Jeep. So he puts on like my Eagles hat and he puts on my military sunglasses that take up like half of his face. And he's like, Aunt Randy, you're mommy. And I'm like, no, I'm not. And he was like, no, you're mommy and you're daddy. And I was like, your parents are not going to be happy that you said that. And he goes, oh, that's okay. You're not very good at this. I was like, I'm leaving you in this motherfucking Jeep. I'm rolling the windows up.
He normally writes me mean notes on paper airplanes that he sends down the stairs to me. But I showed you this one, I think. I don't know why it's still on my desk, but it's the one that says,
I need a new mommy.
Yeah, I want a new mom. Like, so I have this one that's available.
And then like 10 minutes later, we go to Barnes and Noble and I'm like, pick out a book. And he picks this book. And of course, at first he's picking all these books on puberty. And I'm like, I'm not reading that to you. And then he picks one and I was like, do you want to come read it? And he just like snuggles up into me. And he's like, this is so fun. I'm like, you're a terrorist. I'm in an abusive relationship with a 3-year-old. Like, what is this?
Motherhood.
And
That
even
is
with
every mom.
Never. And even I hate the people that are just like, oh well, back in my day we'd like, look, my mother was severely abusive by any standards, like by then standards, by now standards. And then you're like, you know what happened? First of all, I'm in therapy. Second of all, I don't talk to her. So like, if you even have it in you, I know I'm like on this huge soapbox right now, if you have it in you to hurt a kid, if that is like your instinct, little bean pod would drive me batshit insane. And I never, like, him crying upset me, even if he did it to himself. Like, it never crossed my mind, like, man, I'm gonna backhand this kid. Like, that is just, some part of you is just so fucked if you do that.
Well, guys, I tell you what, I am going to put the fix back in asphyxiation with some of my little mini, very shallow dives. I mean, so shallow. But we're going to bring the fun back to April Fools.
Fix us up.
We're going to fix it up. And we're going to start in. Last time I was in Oklahoma for one of our, not last time, two times ago. I was in Oklahoma, and we're going to come back to Oklahoma in 2014. And so we're going to talk about a gentleman, really briefly, named Bradley Davis. So not Bradley, Brad Lee Davis. And as we know, you never trust a man with 3 first names. And so
you do not.
We're doing that. But anyway, Bradley Davis, 33 years old, was charged with the murder of his stepfather, 58-year-old Denver St. Clair, during a drunken family fight in Oklahoma City. And you may be curious how St. Clair died in 2014.
I am curious.
Well, the medical examiner did state that the cause of death was asphyxiation and blunt force trauma. Okay, so we're starting at the end. We're coming back to the beginning.
Okay.
So poor Denver St. Clair died via atomic wedgie.
Excuse me? Wait, is that the one where are you going to explain it? Okay.
So Brad Lee Davis, during this drunken fight, decided to grab the elastic waistband of his stepfather and pull it over his head. Unfortunately, these tighty whities were so tight, it ended up asphyxiating his stepfather, leaving ligature marks around his neck.
Oh my
Blood
God.
spatter was also found in multiple areas in the house.
Ooh,
Based
multiple
off,
areas. Like,
it sounds like the elastic waistband went around his neck and then caused so much injury that he stumbled around with this atomic wedgie to death. So
Oh
it
my God.
was a prank gone wrong, unfortunately.
But asphyxiation takes a while.
Yeah.
minutes.
So
It's not quick.
no. So that was prank number one that well, it wasn't a very well planned prank, but an April Fool's prank nonetheless. And that was the deadly prank number one.
Jeez.
Prank number two was in Massachusetts, and this was in the year 1980. So a man named Homer Silly decided that he was going to play a little prank as the executive producer of WNAC TV as he was running the news. So on Tuesday, April 1st, he had the station run a bulletin that a non-active, it's not even a volcano, it's just a hill that's near their house. So it's non-volcanic hill
Okay.
called Great Blue Hill near in suburban Milton, Massachusetts. He ran a bulletin that said it had begun spitting flames and lava. And so they spliced together all this footage of active Mount St. Helens,
Mhm.
and then also editing in remarks from President Jimmy Carter expressing concern and Governor Edward J. King calling the situation serious. At the end of the bulletin, he had the reporter, Jim Harris, hold up a sign that said April Fools. But unfortunately, most people did not stay around to watch the entire bulletin. Many residents of Milton fled their homes. Others flooded Milton police and Massachusetts Civil Defense with phone calls. And once it was revealed, of course, hundreds of angry viewers called in to express their distaste for the April Fool's joke. So the
What city was this in?
Milton, Massachusetts.
Oh wow. Okay.
So Homer Sully, who was the guy behind this, he was fired the next day for his failure to exercise good news judgment and for violating the federal communications commission's rules about showing stock footage without identifying it as such.
That's War of the Worlds
Well,
all
and
over
it's really
again.
fucked up. Yeah, exactly. And right then in 1980, it was obviously before this happened. But Mount St. Helens had just erupted and caused significant ecological distress in that area, like for humans and everything. And that's pretty fucked up.
That's a good point.
You're using real footage of a real disaster.
Not a great prank.
Not a good, my dude.
My
Dude.
guy.
My guy.
Yeah.
So we have
Okay.
death by atomic wedgie, and we have excitement over non-volcanic hill in Massachusetts.
Natural disaster.
Natural disaster. And then this is a weird one that I feel like should get, like, we could go more in depth into it, but there was this guy named David R. Stewart who was a correctional officer and father of 5 who had done a certain prank more. And so it's not April Fool's, but I started like just researching deadly pranks and this one intrigued me. So he did this particular prank, if you will, more than 70 times in 30 states over almost a 20-year period. So he would call usually a small business, usually a fast food restaurant. He would talk to the manager, claiming to be a police officer, asking for their help in detaining a suspected criminal employee or customer. And then he would give just a vague description that could really be like almost anybody in a store. So sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But he would have the manager take the suspect into a private location in usually this fast food restaurant and then have them do weird things to them. So sometimes it was just weird and it did not go into deranged. But there was one particular incident in a Kentucky McDonald's in 2004 where this guy called an assistant manager who ended up contacting her fiance to help her. They imprisoned a completely innocent employee for 3.5 hours, and per the instructions on this prank phone call, had her stripped naked, spanked her, and forced her to perform oral sex.
Ew.
Yeah, so talk about pranks gone wrong. So this is where
That's assault.
at this point, no longer a prank. It has become terrible. So fortunately, police eventually started seeing connections between these seemingly isolated incidents at these fast food restaurants and like gas stations. And using this surveillance video, as well as like a phone card and a few other pieces of evidence, they were able to arrest David R. Stewart. And they found all these applications for police department jobs and all of this, just like police literature, many costumes, like police costumes.
Oh no.
That's not
as
okay.
well. And he was charged with impersonating a police officer and soliciting sodomy, but he was not convicted.
What? Why?
Yep.
So what does
So,
Sunny say? Don't do it.
hey,
Don't
stop it. No, don't do it. So they did make a movie in 2012 called Compliance that was based off of this story. But yeah, so just talk about pranks. So I believe a few of these did happen on April Fools, which is why this came up for this.
Mhm.
But yeah, so super weird. So we have multiple pranks gone wrong. One of them leading to atomic wedgie death. One of them leading to an entire city being very angry, and then one of them leading to some very weird shit going down in fast food restaurants.
How fucking stupid do you have to be if you're like, I'm the police, get her naked, and you're like, all right,
I am police. Like
I is police.
I is police.
As someone who can speak with personal experience in pulling pranks, you never can quite account for the variable, which is human decision on the other end.
Mhm.
Yep.
And maybe next time I'll get into one of those pranks I pulled that had some serious consequences. And it didn't even occur to me till right now when you were talking about it, that like I was like, oh shit, I did that. Like,
Well, you
probably shouldn't
talked
have done
about how your mom would dress up as like La Llorona and like go to
Yeah.
a school. I'm like, that was probably not great.
That's terrible.
And that was just a Halloween costume. That was just her Halloween. That wasn't even like pranks that she pulled, but I think I get my very sick sense of humor from her. And so I pulled some pretty morbid and dark pranks on maybe a youth group I might have had for a couple of years.
My prank is I text people on April Fools that I'm pregnant and see what their
That's a good
reaction
one.
is.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one. But we're getting, I just, you can never plan for that variable. You just
Right.
well, happy April, everyone. Happy April.
Yeah, oh wow, I just did it.
See?
Whew.
All right.
So
Well,
I will save those anecdotes. I've got two that are pretty funny, but I will save them for another time. We've got lots of episodes coming down the line. Not a
Yes.
problem.
well, we hope you like and subscribe. We're on most podcast platforms. Leave us a good review. Send us an email if you have a case suggestion. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Subscribe on YouTube. Email is bourbonwineandtruecrime@yahoo.com. Yahoo.
Yahoo.
And we will see you guys next time.
Bye-bye. Thank you for
Love
listening.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.